Welcome to the Guided Expressions podcast with Martin Williams, the place to learn and be inspired to live your best life. Here is your host, Martin Williams.
Hey everybody, my name is Martin Williams. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Guided Expressions podcast. I hope that you are having a great day, great week. And if you have not already, please subscribe to the podcast. You can subscribe any number of ways. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts. You can also subscribe on Spotify. You can subscribe on SoundCloud as well. And finally, you can subscribe on YouTube. So if you're listening to me on YouTube, you can find those links in the description box. If you're listening to me somewhere else, you can go to guidedexpressions.com /podcast and then get all the links there. So thanks so much for tuning in again. And today what I wanted to talk to you about is the idea of the simple answer. Now, a lot of times people try to overcomplicate their life. They try to overthink things. And usually that leads to one of two things. Either you don't do what you set out to do, or you simply give up, or a combination of the two, right? What I tell people all the time is that complicated leads to complications, okay? And whenever you hear the word complications, that's usually not a good thing, right? It usually means that there's some negative consequences there. So what happens, why is it that we overcomplicate things? And instead of looking for the simple answer, we look for the complicated answer. Well, it's probably a combination of things. One, I think that a lot of times people who have made it because they had a complicated path, they think, well, you got to go down my path. And my path, it was really hard for me. And, I had to go through all these different things in order to get to where I am. And the reality is that the only reason it took them a long time is that they didn't know and they were overthinking. And so we tend to pass down this idea that it takes an enormous amount of effort to accomplish something or to solve a problem, and reality is it doesn't. It really doesn't. It's just that the hard part is knowing that it's simple. The hard part is knowing that the simple answer is often the correct answer. So in a personal example of mine, there's many, but I remember when I was working in a warehouse. I was in college and I was working in a warehouse, and there was something that we needed to do to tie down like a large. It was like a barge, right? And we had to tie it down with the rope. I don't know if I'm even using the right lingo, but it was this large. It was a pallet. That's the better word. It was a pallet of materials that we had to tie down using a rope, and the way that we needed to tie it down was kind of like it was a it was a special knot that we needed to make in order to secure it. And I'm telling you, it took so long for me to like figure out that knot, right? It was a simple knot, and I wasn't stupid. Like I had figured out way more complicated things than that. But in my mind, I was thinking, "Oh, this is really hard," and and what made it even harder in my mind anyway was the employee who was showing us what to do. He said, I usually have problems getting people to do this because it's so complicated. And he said a 5-year old or an idiot can do it, but since we don't have either one, we have to figure it out. And so the way that he said it, it was kind of condescending, but at the same time, it stuck with me for years because in life, a lot of times it's the simple thing, and most people are not where they need to be or where they want to be because they refuse to do the simple thing. It's got to be more complicated than that. And what's happened again, is that we've layered all of these stories about how hard life is, right? We've layered all these stories about how difficult life can be, and how much it takes in order to make it, and what someone went through. And just because someone went through something, it doesn't mean that I have to go through it, okay? Because they are their own person, okay? The only way that I'm gonna go through something similar is if I accept in my mind that I have to go through what they went through. So I hope that makes sense. Excuse me. That you don't have to, just because someone went through a certain path, you don't have to take that same path. You can take a different path. And a lot of times, the path that they took is way more complicated than the one that you need to take. Okay, because they were trying to figure something out, because they didn't understand the whole concept of simplicity. Okay, think of it this way: many of our grandparents, parents, grandparents, great grandparents have enjoyed a level of success that many of us are still aspiring to, and they did so with less education. They did so with less amenities that we have now. They did it with less resources, to be honest. So why were they able to succeed and we didn't? It's because they did the simple things. By and large, people from previous generations understand this concept intuitively. They understand that if you keep things simple, you're going to succeed more often than not. You're going to have what you want more often than not. Now, we got a lot of things going now for us that they didn't have going for them. But if there's one thing that we can glean from our previous generations, our ancestors, is to keep things simple. You don't have to overthink every single thing. No one is more guilty of it than I. I know that I've overthought things like money. I know that I've overthought things like my health. I've overthought things like my business. Um, and too often we do the complicated stuff instead of doing the simple stuff, right? If you do the simple things, okay, you will, in most cases, get everything that you want. Excuse me. So, what is an example of that? Let's say that you're looking for ways to make more money and someone offers you an opportunity to become a part of a network marketing group, or they offer you an opportunity to become a part of an affiliate group, or maybe they offer you an opportunity to join their business but you've never done that business before. Now, I'm not saying don't learn new things and don't expand yourself. I do believe it's very important that we expand, but I think that what I've learned is that it's not so much about the width of something, but the depth, right? Instead of spreading ourselves, and often we spread ourselves too thin, we don't necessarily drill down and go deeper with the knowledge that we already have. And what you'll find is that if you instead of trying to figure out how can I, instead of starting 12 businesses, right? You can do that, and it's not the worst thing in the world. But what the danger is that you spread yourself thin, right? The danger is you're trying to be everywhere at once, and um, you're not really, you're okay in 10 areas, but excellent in none, right? Instead of that, instead of having that mindset, why not have the mindset of, I'm going to be excellent in one or two things. I'm going to be excellent in this and maybe something else. But instead of trying to learn 10 businesses, I'm going to drill down and learn one or two things and be great at that. And when you make that decision, you will begin to reap more and more success because, let's face it, the way that the things that are really like precious in our lives, as far as like monetarily speaking, when you look at things like oil, how do they get oil? They drill down, right? They drill down, and in order to find more oil, they got to drill deeper and deeper into the earth to find more oil. If they want diamonds, they gotta go into the caves. They gotta go deep down in order to find diamonds, right? Coal that creates the electricity that you and I are enjoying right now. They drill down to get that electricity, that coal to get that electricity. Excuse me. So you get my point. The things that we really want, we got to drill down, and we got to drill down to get those, to get those things that we truly want. So it's important that we, instead of trying to spread ourselves thin, we drill down and go deeper. And that's simple, right? To me, it's simple. I know for a lot of people, they may say, well, I don't know if the thing that I'm doing is going to be successful. And the reality is, it's not so much the field you go into, it's how you do it, right? Look at the guy, the dog whisperer, Cesar Millan, right? He, or Million, I hope I'm saying his name right. He's he's basically like a dog expert, right? But he was walking dogs and whatnot, but he's so excellent at what he does. I mean, he's turned basically dog sitting, dog training. He's turned it into TV shows. He's turned it into his own line. He's turned himself into a personality, okay, because of how well he does it. And so my suggestion to you is, instead of trying to figure out what's the thing for me to do, why not take the thing that you already know how to do and drill deeper? How can you get better at it? How can you improve? How can you raise your level higher in that? And then, basically dominate that. And then, as you dominate that, as you overflow in that, it will naturally spread into other things. Okay, I hope I made sense. The overarching point of all of this is find the simple thing, find the simple answer, because there is a simple answer. If you're overweight, the simple answer is you got to find a way to eat less, whether it's, intermittent fasting, whether it's cutting your portions down, whether it's, whatever the case may be. You have to find the simple thing. And when you find the simple thing, more expansive things make themselves available to you. So my name is Martin Williams. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Guided Expressions podcast, and I will talk to you soon.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Guided Expressions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify to get all the latest content from Guided Expressions. No one builds a house without a blueprint, so why are you trying to build your dream life without one? That's how the Blueprint course was created. The Blueprint course is for people who know they were meant for more. Created by Martin Williams, the Blueprint is a streamlined way to help you create the life you've always wanted. Get instant access now by clicking the link in the description box or going to guidedexpressions.com/blueprint.